Imagine you are walking down the street, and you see someone struggling with a heavy load. They seem tired, and their face shows signs of frustration. How do you react? Do you walk by without noticing? Or do you stop, offer a helping hand, and show a bit of kindness? In that moment, do you feel a connection with their struggle, or is it just another face in the crowd? What if I told you that the key to a peaceful and fulfilling life lies in how we respond to these everyday situations? Every day, we face countless opportunities to practice compassion, from the small gestures, like holding the door open, to the larger acts, such as offering emotional support to a friend in need. But how often do we pause to think about how compassion truly impacts us? In a world where stress, anger, and division seem to dominate the headlines, can compassion really be the answer to our daily struggles? What does it take to make compassion a natural part of who we are? How do we shift our mindset from simply reacting to life's challenges to responding with kindness and understanding? In today's world, where everything moves at a fast pace, we often forget the power of a simple act of compassion. Yet, the truth is, compassion can transform not only our relationships, but our entire way of being in this world. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, where we explore the profound teachings of Buddhism and how they can be applied to everyday life. In this series, we'll dive deep into the power of compassion, why it's more than just a feeling, and how it can bring true peace to our hearts. If you're looking for deeper meaning in your everyday interactions and want to transform your life for the better, this series is for you. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribe. So, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us grow, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Stay with us as we explore the life-changing power of compassion. Now, let's take that first step together. Let's explore the awakening of compassion in our lives. Understanding true compassion. Compassion is often misunderstood. We might think it's just about feeling sorry for someone, offering pity, or helping others out of obligation. But true compassion goes much deeper than that. It's not just about offering sympathy when someone is struggling. It's about being fully present with them in their suffering, understanding their pain, and offering support without judgment. Compassion isn't born from a sense of superiority or charity. It grows from the heart, from the genuine desire to help others because we recognize their humanity, just as we recognize our own. In Buddhism, compassion is known as karuna. It's the deep empathy that moves us to alleviate the suffering of others. It's not about fixing problems for people or doing things out of guilt or expectation. True compassion comes from a place of love and understanding. It doesn't demand anything in return, nor does it expect anything to be reciprocated. It's a selfless act, rooted in the understanding that everyone, including ourselves, experiences pain and hardship in life. Think about the last time someone was there for you when you needed it most. Maybe it was a friend who simply listened to you, or someone who reached out without you having to ask. Did their presence make you feel lighter, even if just for a moment? That's the power of compassion. It's not always about grand gestures. It's often the small, everyday acts of kindness that make the biggest difference. But there's a twist. The more we practice compassion, the more it benefits us. You might think that helping others is something we do for them, and that's true. However, when we extend compassion, we're also helping ourselves. Studies have shown that acts of kindness and compassion not only make us feel good emotionally, but can also lower stress, improve our immune system, and boost our overall well-being. The more we open our hearts to others, the more peace we create within ourselves. It's like planting a seed in our hearts that grows into something much bigger, something that nourishes our entire being. One of the most profound teachings of Buddhism is that suffering is universal. No one is immune to pain, whether it's physical or emotional. Understanding this fundamental truth helps us connect with others on a deeper level. When we acknowledge that everyone experiences hardship, we develop a natural compassion toward them. We no longer see others as separate from us, but as fellow travelers on the same journey of life. But how do we truly embody compassion in our lives? It starts with awareness. To be compassionate, we need to be aware of the suffering around us, but also the suffering within us. Often, we're so busy with our own lives that we overlook the struggles of others. We might be so caught up in our own problems that we fail to notice when someone else is in need. But when we make a conscious effort to slow down, to listen, and to observe, we begin to see the world through a more compassionate lens. We start to recognize that every person we encounter is carrying their own burdens, just as we carry our own. Compassion doesn't always mean giving something material. It's not always about doing something specific for someone. Sometimes, it's just about being present. Sitting quietly with someone who is grieving, holding space for them without trying to fix the situation, is an act of profound compassion. Often, we feel like we need to offer advice or solutions when someone is in pain. But true compassion sometimes requires us to just be there, to listen, to share in their experience without rushing to change it. When we practice compassion, we're also learning to be kinder to ourselves. It's easy to be hard on ourselves, especially when things go wrong. We tend to be our own harshest critics. But compassion teaches us to accept our own imperfections. We learn to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a close friend or loved one. This is crucial because we can't truly offer compassion to others if we don't first offer it to ourselves. Self-compassion is the foundation upon which all other compassion is built. But how do we go beyond just feeling compassion in our hearts and make it a part of our everyday lives? It requires practice. Like any other skill, compassion needs to be nurtured and developed. One simple way to start is by practicing loving-kindness meditation. This meditation involves silently repeating phrases like, "May I be happy," "May I be healthy," "May I be safe," "May I live with ease." It begins with sending compassion toward yourself, and then gradually extending it to others. You start by wishing well to loved ones, then acquaintances, and eventually, even those you might have conflict with. Over time, this practice can help you develop a more compassionate mindset and respond with kindness in situations where you might have previously reacted with frustration or anger. Another way to cultivate compassion is through small acts of kindness. Whether it's smiling at a stranger, offering a compliment, or lending a hand to someone in need, these simple acts can have a profound effect on both you and the recipient. You don't have to wait for a big moment to practice compassion. It can happen in everyday situations, like when you're waiting in line at the grocery store or when you're interacting with a colleague at work. These small acts may seem insignificant, but they add up over time, helping to create a ripple effect of kindness that spreads out into the world. Buddhism teaches that compassion is the antidote to suffering. When we understand that we are all connected, that we all experience pain and joy in similar ways, we begin to see the world through a lens of empathy. We become more aware of the needs of others and more willing to offer our help, whether it's through listening, understanding, or simply offering a kind word. This doesn't mean we have to solve everyone's problems. It just means we show up, we care, and we offer support in whatever way we can. Over time, as we continue to practice compassion, we begin to see changes in ourselves. We become more patient, more understanding, and more forgiving. Our relationships with others improve as we approach them with an open heart rather than judgment. We develop a greater sense of peace and contentment because we no longer feel the need to defend ourselves or protect our egos. Compassion allows us to be vulnerable, to open ourselves up to others without fear of being hurt or rejected. So, what does true compassion look like in action? It's when you see someone struggling, and instead of turning away, you choose to step forward and offer help. It's when you listen to someone without interrupting or offering advice, simply because you understand that sometimes people just need to be heard. It's when you forgive someone, not because they've apologized, but because you understand that holding on to resentment only harms yourself. True compassion is about seeing the humanity in others, recognizing their suffering, and responding with kindness, no matter how big or small the act may seem. Compassion is not something we simply feel. It's something we practice day in and day out. It's a way of being, a way of living, and a way of connecting with the world. The more we practice, the more natural it becomes, and the more we transform not only the lives of others, but our own as well. The journey toward compassion is lifelong, but with each step, we come closer to understanding the depth of our own humanity and the power we have to make the world a kinder, more peaceful place. The roots of loving-kindness, metta. In the teachings of Buddhism, there is a profound and transformative practice called metta, often translated as loving-kindness. It is one of the most powerful tools to cultivate compassion, and it starts from the very core of our being. But what is metta really? It is not just a fleeting emotion or a nice gesture that we offer when it's convenient. It is a deep and unwavering commitment to love and care for others, without any conditions, without any judgment. It is the act of recognizing the shared humanity in all beings and responding with kindness, understanding, and warmth. The beauty of metta lies in its simplicity. We don't need to do anything extraordinary to practice it. It's about being present in the moment, noticing the people around us, and choosing to respond with an open heart. It's in those small moments, a smile to a stranger, a comforting word to a friend, or simply holding space for someone who is hurting. These acts might seem insignificant, but they are powerful beyond measure. They carry the energy of love and understanding, and they create ripples that can transform not only our own lives, but the lives of others too. But metta is not something that just appears overnight. It takes time, patience, and dedication to cultivate. Just like a seed needs soil, sunlight, and water to grow, metta needs mindfulness, awareness, and intention. It starts with ourselves. Before we can offer loving kindness to others, we must first learn to offer it to ourselves. This can be a challenge, especially if we are used to being hard on ourselves or carrying guilt, shame, or self-criticism. But the practice of metta invites us to let go of these negative thoughts and embrace ourselves with the same kindness and compassion that we would offer to someone we love dearly. It's not about being perfect, it's about being kind. And that kindness starts with being gentle and understanding toward ourselves. When we cultivate this inner kindness, it becomes easier to extend it to others. We begin to see the world through a lens of compassion rather than judgment. We understand that every person, just like us, is fighting their own battles, carrying their own burdens, and yearning for connection and love. The Buddha taught that all beings have the potential for goodness, for kindness, and for wisdom. It's easy to forget this in a world that often values success, power, and material wealth over compassion and care. But when we take a moment to reflect on the true nature of humanity, we realize that beneath the surface, we all have the capacity for metta. We all have the ability to care for others, to show kindness, and to make the world a little brighter with our presence. In our everyday lives, it can be easy to become consumed by stress, worries, and the hustle of daily tasks. But if we remember that we are all interconnected, and that our actions and words have the power to affect those around us, it becomes much easier to choose kindness. Every time we interact with someone, we have an opportunity to practice metta, whether it's in a brief conversation, a difficult meeting, or even a fleeting encounter with a stranger. In those moments, we can choose to approach others with understanding, patience, and care. But metta is not just about being kind when things are easy. It's especially important when things are difficult. When we are faced with conflict, hurt, or misunderstanding, that is when metta becomes a true practice. It's easy to be kind when everything is going well, but what about when we're hurt, angry, or frustrated? That's when the practice of metta becomes truly transformative. Instead of reacting with anger or resentment, we can choose to pause, breathe, and respond with kindness, even in the face of adversity. This doesn't mean that we ignore our feelings or suppress our emotions. It simply means that we acknowledge our emotions with awareness and compassion and choose to act from a place of love, not fear. It's a shift from being reactive to being responsive, from acting out of habit or impulse to acting with mindfulness and intention. When we practice metta, we start to break the cycle of negativity and create space for healing, understanding, and peace. One of the most powerful aspects of metta is its ability to heal. When we offer loving kindness to others, we are not just helping them, we are helping ourselves. Compassion is not a one-way street. It's a mutual exchange that nurtures both the giver and the receiver. When we show kindness to others, we experience a deep sense of fulfillment and joy. It's like a light that shines within us, growing brighter with every act of kindness. And as this light grows, it begins to illuminate the world around us, spreading warmth and love to everyone we encounter. But sometimes, we may encounter people who are difficult, who seem to resist kindness or who react with hostility. In these moments, it can be easy to feel discouraged or frustrated. But the practice of metta teaches us not to take things personally. People's reactions are often a reflection of their own pain, fear, or suffering. When we encounter these individuals, it's an opportunity to offer compassion not just to them, but also to ourselves. We don't have to fix them or change their behavior. We simply offer them love and understanding, without expecting anything in return. The more we practice metta, the more we begin to see the world through a compassionate lens. We start to recognize the interconnectedness of all beings and understand that we are all in this together. We begin to understand that our happiness and peace are intertwined with the happiness and peace of others. This realization brings a deep sense of joy and fulfillment, knowing that every act of kindness, no matter how small, contributes to the greater good. As we continue to cultivate loving kindness, we may begin to notice subtle shifts in our lives. We may find ourselves more patient, more understanding, and more willing to forgive. We may feel a greater sense of connection to the people around us, and even to the world at large. This is the transformative power of metta. It changes not only how we interact with others, but how we see ourselves and the world around us. It teaches us that true happiness does not come from external sources, but from the love and compassion that we cultivate within our own hearts. Ultimately, the practice of metta reminds us that kindness is not just a gesture, it is a way of being. It is a way of showing up in the world with an open heart, ready to offer love and compassion to everyone we encounter. It's a way of living that brings peace, healing, and joy, both to ourselves and to those around us. And when we embrace this practice, we can begin to experience the profound and lasting transformation that comes from living with an open heart and a loving mind. So, as you go about your day, take a moment to reflect on the power of metta. How can you offer loving kindness to those around you? How can you show yourself the same compassion that you would show to a dear friend? Remember, every small act of kindness, every moment of understanding, and every word of compassion has the potential to change the world, one person at a time. And it all begins with you. Compassion begins within. Compassion begins within us. It's not something that can be demanded or forced from the outside. True compassion, the kind that heals and transforms, arises from a place deep inside, a place where we can recognize our own pain, our own struggles, and yet still choose to show kindness, not only to others but to ourselves as well. Without understanding and accepting ourselves first, it's difficult to extend true compassion to others. Think about a time when you were going through something difficult. Maybe it was a period of self-doubt or personal loss, or maybe you were just feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. In that moment, how did you treat yourself? Did you offer yourself the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend in need? Or were you harsh and critical, too focused on what you should have done or what you could have been? This is where self-compassion comes in. It's easy to forget that we, too, are worthy of the same love, patience, and understanding that we so often give to others. Self-compassion is not about being weak or indulgent. It's about recognizing that we are human, and like everyone else, we have our imperfections, our mistakes, and our flaws. But these things don't make us any less deserving of kindness. In fact, they make us more deserving of it, because they remind us that we are all part of the same human experience. When we practice self-compassion, we create a solid foundation for compassion to grow. We learn to quiet the inner critic, the voice that tells us we're not good enough, not worthy of love, or that we must always be perfect. By embracing our flaws, we begin to open up to others. We start to see them not as people who are different or separate from us, but as fellow travelers on the same journey. We see their struggles, their pains, and their fears, and we begin to understand that they are just like us, trying their best to navigate this world. In Buddhism, there's a practice known as metta, or loving-kindness meditation. It's an exercise that teaches us to first offer love and kindness to ourselves, and then extend that love outward to others. The idea is that by cultivating compassion within our own hearts, we can slowly begin to radiate it out into the world around us. We start by wishing ourselves happiness, safety, and peace. We accept ourselves as we are, acknowledging that we are deserving of these things, just as we would wish them for anyone else. This practice can be incredibly powerful, but it's not always easy. Many of us struggle with self-judgment. We hold ourselves to impossibly high standards and feel disappointment when we don't measure up. We forget that life isn't about being perfect. It's about learning, growing, and accepting ourselves through every step of the journey. Self-compassion allows us to be gentle with ourselves during these times of growth and change. It gives us permission to be human, to make mistakes, and to learn from them without beating ourselves up. When we start to treat ourselves with kindness, something beautiful begins to happen. We begin to notice that we are more patient with others, more forgiving, and more understanding. We start to see the world through the lens of compassion. We understand that others, too, are carrying their own burdens, their own wounds, and their own stories. And instead of reacting with judgment or frustration, we begin to respond with empathy and kindness. The more we practice compassion towards ourselves, the easier it becomes to show compassion towards others. It's like a ripple effect. When we extend kindness to ourselves, it flows out to our family, our friends, our neighbors, and even to strangers. Compassion is contagious. It spreads quietly, without force, and yet it has the power to change lives. It changes how we see others and how we treat them. It changes how we show up in the world, not as isolated individuals, but as connected human beings who are all in this together. There's an ancient Buddhist teaching that says, "May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering." This simple prayer captures the essence of compassion. It's a wish for the well-being of all living beings, including ourselves. But to truly offer this wish with sincerity, we must first believe that we deserve it. We must first believe that we, too, are worthy of happiness, peace, and freedom from suffering. It's not enough to wish this for others if we are unable to wish it for ourselves. Self-compassion is not selfish. It's not about putting ourselves above others or ignoring the needs of those around us. In fact, the more compassionate we are towards ourselves, the more we have to give. When we treat ourselves with love and care, we replenish our own well-being, and from that place of inner peace, we can offer that same peace to the world around us. But how do we practice self-compassion in our everyday lives? It starts with awareness. The next time you're feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, or even ashamed, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, how would I treat a friend who is feeling the way I'm feeling right now? Imagine how you would offer them comfort, understanding, and support. Now, turn that same compassion inward. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you love deeply. It also means forgiving ourselves when we make mistakes. Mistakes are a natural part of life. They are opportunities for growth and learning. When we make a mistake, instead of berating ourselves or feeling ashamed, we can choose to approach it with curiosity and kindness. What can we learn from this? How can we do better next time? This shift in mindset allows us to embrace our imperfections without fear or shame. Another important aspect of self-compassion is setting healthy boundaries. It's about recognizing our limits and respecting them. When we push ourselves too hard or say yes to everything, we deplete our energy and our ability to show up for others. By setting boundaries, we protect our well-being and ensure that we have the space and energy to offer compassion to those who truly need it. As we continue to nurture self-compassion, we begin to see how interconnected we are with the world around us. We understand that our suffering is not isolated, and neither is our happiness. When we cultivate compassion for ourselves, we create a ripple effect that touches everyone we encounter. We become a living example of what it means to be kind, patient, and loving, and that example can inspire others to do the same. In the end, compassion is not something we do for others because we feel sorry for them. It's something we do because we recognize the shared humanity in all of us. We offer compassion because it's a way to acknowledge the struggles and joys that we all experience in this life. It's a way to say, I see you. I understand you. I'm with you. And when we offer that same compassion to ourselves, we create the space for healing and transformation to take place, both within and around us. Compassion begins within. It starts with a simple shift in how we view ourselves and the world. And once we open our hearts to this truth, we begin to experience the profound power of kindness, not just for others, but for ourselves as well. Compassionate mind, peaceful heart. Compassion is not something we just practice when things are easy. It is a muscle we strengthen over time, and just like any muscle, it requires care, patience, and consistency. When we begin to cultivate compassion, we notice a subtle change happening within us. It's like planting a seed in the soil of our heart. Over time, it grows and spreads its roots, transforming not just our thoughts, but our entire being. The more we practice compassion, the more it softens our heart and clears our mind. In the fast-paced world we live in, it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of emotions, stress, and chaos. The noise of our daily lives often drowns out the peaceful rhythm of our hearts. We find ourselves rushing, judging, or reacting to every little challenge. But imagine if we could take a moment, just a brief pause, to simply breathe, to feel the situation, and to respond with a mind full of compassion. How different would your interactions with others be if every response came from a place of understanding, kindness, and calm? A compassionate mind is one that is free of judgment. It doesn't view the world in terms of right or wrong, good or bad. Instead, it recognizes that we are all human, imperfect, and doing the best we can in the face of life's challenges. When we judge others, we build walls between us, reinforcing the idea of them versus us. But when we respond with compassion, we open ourselves up to understanding, to connection, to shared humanity. It's like a ripple effect. Each act of compassion that we offer has the power to transform not only the person we're interacting with, but also our own hearts and minds. The Buddhist teachings remind us that the mind is like a garden. If we fill it with thoughts of anger, resentment, and judgment, we are planting seeds that will only bring us discomfort and suffering. But if we plant seeds of kindness, empathy, and compassion, we nurture a garden that brings peace, harmony, and joy. It's a simple but powerful truth. What we sow, we reap. When we choose compassion, we are choosing peace. As we develop compassion, we begin to notice the subtle shifts in how we feel and how we see the world. Our reactions become less driven by anger or fear and more rooted in understanding. We stop looking for reasons to be upset and start looking for reasons to be at peace. We realize that true peace is not something we can force or manufacture. It comes naturally when we live from a place of compassion, not just for others, but also for ourselves. You see, compassion is not just an external act. It is an internal transformation. When we are kind to others, but harsh with ourselves, we are not truly at peace. True peace begins within. It's the ability to forgive ourselves for our mistakes, to show ourselves the same kindness we would offer a friend. It's the ability to accept our flaws and imperfections, knowing that we are all on a journey of growth. Compassionate living is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about learning to be gentle with ourselves as we learn to be gentle with others. Every time we choose compassion, we create a small moment of peace within. It might not feel like much at first, but over time, these moments add up. We start to realize that we can carry this peace with us wherever we go. It doesn't depend on external circumstances or how others treat us. True peace is an inside job, and it is rooted in the choice to live with compassion. But peace does not mean the absence of difficulty. Life is full of challenges, and we are bound to face difficult situations and emotions. However, when we approach life with a compassionate mind, we are better able to handle these difficulties with grace. We don't allow ourselves to be consumed by frustration or anger. Instead, we respond with patience, understanding, and kindness, not just to others, but to ourselves as well. In these moments, we create space for peace to arise, even in the midst of chaos. Compassion also teaches us the importance of presence. When we are truly present in the moment, we can see the world around us with clearer eyes. We stop rushing through life, distracted by the next task or worry. Instead, we begin to notice the beauty of each moment, the kindness in a smile, the warmth in a touch, the simple joy of being alive. It is in this presence that true peace is found, and it is in this presence that compassion can thrive. When we practice compassion, we also become more resilient. Life will always have its ups and downs, but when we approach it with a compassionate heart, we are better equipped to handle whatever comes our way. We learn to face challenges with a sense of calm and equanimity. We don't let our emotions control us. Instead, we approach each situation with a balanced mind and an open heart. The more we cultivate compassion, the more we realize that it is not just something we do for others. It is something we do for ourselves. Compassion brings peace, and peace brings clarity. When we are at peace, we can see the world for what it truly is, without the distortions of anger, fear, or judgment. we begin to understand that peace is not an abstract idea. It is a living, breathing reality that we can create, moment by moment, through our choices. True peace is not something we can grasp or chase. It is something that comes naturally when we live from a place of compassion. It's not about avoiding conflict or difficulties. It's about meeting life's challenges with a compassionate heart and a peaceful mind. It's about accepting that we are human, that we will make mistakes, and that we can always choose to respond with love, kindness, and understanding. So, in every moment, we have a choice. We can choose to react with frustration, anger, or fear, or we can choose to respond with compassion, understanding, and peace. It's not always easy, but it is always possible. The more we practice, the more natural it becomes. And the more we choose compassion, the more peace we create in our lives. Remember, compassion is not just about how we treat others. It's about how we treat ourselves. It's about living in a way that brings peace not only to those around us, but also to our own hearts. And it's in this peace that true happiness lies. Mindfulness as a path to compassion. In the quiet moments of our busy lives, we often rush from one task to the next, overwhelmed by everything we have to do. We don't have time to stop, reflect, or even notice the small things happening around us. But what if I told you that true compassion begins not with grand gestures, but with simply being present? What if you could bring kindness, patience, and love into every moment, just by paying attention to what's happening right now? This is the power of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, aware of our thoughts, feelings, and actions without judgment. It's the ability to notice what's happening inside us and around us without being carried away by distractions or emotions. Mindfulness helps us see the world as it is, rather than how we wish it to be. It allows us to experience life with clarity, even when it's chaotic, and in doing so, it opens the door to compassion. When we practice mindfulness, we begin to notice things we often overlook. We might notice the stress in someone's voice, the tiredness in their eyes, or the quiet way they are suffering. We might realize that we've been so focused on our own struggles that we've missed opportunities to help or show kindness. Mindfulness brings us out of our heads and into the world, where we can truly connect with others. But mindfulness isn't just about noticing the world around us. It's also about noticing ourselves. How often do we get caught up in our own thoughts and judgments, judging ourselves for not being good enough or for not doing enough? We hold ourselves to such high standards, and when we fail to meet them, we criticize ourselves. But mindfulness teaches us to stop that cycle. Instead of criticizing, we learn to be kind to ourselves. We learn to observe our thoughts without judgment and to accept ourselves as we are. This self-compassion is the foundation of all compassion. When we are kind to ourselves, it becomes easier to extend that kindness to others. If we can accept our own flaws and mistakes, we can do the same for others. We stop seeing people as problems to be fixed or challenges to overcome, and instead, we see them as human beings who, like us, are doing the best they can in a complex world. This shift in perspective is where true compassion begins. One of the key ways mindfulness nurtures compassion is through awareness. By practicing mindfulness, we start to notice the small things in life that often pass us by. The way someone's face lights up when you offer a smile, the gratitude in a friend's eyes when you listen to their troubles, or the quiet way a person shows up for you when you need them the most. These small moments are opportunities to practice compassion, but they only appear when we are truly present. It's easy to get caught up in our own worries and forget about the world outside of us. We might be consumed by stress, rushing from one thing to the next without ever pausing to check in with ourselves or the people around us. But mindfulness teaches us to slow down. It reminds us that compassion doesn't require grand gestures or life-changing moments. It's often the small, everyday acts of kindness that make the biggest impact. It's the simple act of listening without judgment, of offering a smile to a stranger, or of taking a moment to check in with someone who might be struggling. These acts may seem small, but when they come from a place of mindfulness and awareness, they carry the weight of deep compassion. When we are mindful, we also become aware of the things that trigger our negative reactions. We begin to notice when our patience is running thin, when frustration is building, or when we are about to respond with anger instead of understanding. This awareness gives us the power to pause before reacting to take a deep breath, and to choose a response that comes from a place of kindness instead of reactivity. We stop being slaves to our emotions, and instead, we become the masters of our reactions. This is where mindfulness and compassion are deeply intertwined. Compassion is not just about being kind to others. It's about being kind to ourselves in the moments when we are triggered or when life feels overwhelming. Mindfulness helps us recognize when we are caught in negative patterns, and it gives us the space to break free from them. By practicing mindfulness, we cultivate the inner peace and clarity needed to respond to life with compassion instead of frustration, judgment, or anger. Mindfulness also teaches us that compassion is not something we have to strive for. It's not a goal to be achieved or a box to check. Compassion is already within us. It's a natural part of who we are as human beings. Mindfulness simply helps us reconnect with that innate sense of kindness and empathy that is always there, waiting to be acknowledged. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we begin to see the world through compassionate eyes. We see suffering and pain, but we also see beauty, love, and connection. As we cultivate mindfulness, we start to understand that compassion is not limited to specific people or situations. It's not something we give only to those we love or to those who treat us well. Compassion is for everyone, for the stranger on the street, for the difficult coworker, for the friend who has hurt us, and for ourselves. The more mindful we become, the more we realize that compassion is not a limited resource. It's a limitless force that can be shared freely, without fear of running out. The beauty of mindfulness is that it transforms how we see the world. When we are mindful, we are no longer trapped in our own thoughts and worries. We are free to experience the world as it is, with all its joy and pain, beauty and hardship. And in doing so, we can offer compassion to everyone and everything we encounter, not as an obligation, but as a natural and spontaneous response to the world around us. This is the transformative power of mindfulness. It opens our hearts and minds to the possibility of compassion in every moment. It teaches us to slow down, to pay attention, and to respond with kindness. It shows us that compassion is not something we have to work hard to achieve. It is something we simply need to remember, to notice, and to practice. And the more we practice, the more we become the kind of people who bring peace, love, and understanding into the world. So, let us practice mindfulness not just in moments of meditation, but in every moment of our lives. Let us bring awareness to our thoughts, our actions, and our interactions. Let us cultivate a deep, abiding sense of compassion that flows naturally from within, and let us share it with the world in every small and large way. Through mindfulness, we awaken the true power of compassion, and in doing so, we transform our own lives and the lives of those around us. The art of listening and forgiving. When we speak of compassion, many people think of actions, helping others, giving, or offering kind words. But one of the most powerful ways to show compassion is through two simple, yet often overlooked practices: listening and forgiving. These are the heart of compassion, yet they can be the most challenging. Imagine someone comes to you with a heavy heart, ready to share their pain. They may be frustrated, sad, or even angry. The first impulse might be to fix their problem or offer advice. But compassion doesn't always lie in providing solutions. Sometimes, the most compassionate thing we can do is to truly listen, without interruption, without judgment. We don't need to say anything or offer any advice. We simply need to be present, to hear them out, and to offer our quiet understanding. Listening in this way requires us to put aside our own thoughts and reactions. It asks us to be fully present in the moment, without distractions, without thinking about our own response while they are speaking. Often, we listen with the intent to reply rather than with the intent to understand. But true listening is about giving the other person the space to express themselves fully, without feeling the need to fill the silence or fix things. It's about holding space for their emotions, accepting them as they are, and recognizing their humanity. This can be difficult, especially when their emotions may trigger our own. Yet, it is through listening that we show the deepest form of compassion. It's not about what we say or do, but about how we show up, truly present, with no expectation, only care. Once we learn the art of listening, we begin to understand the importance of forgiveness. In Buddhism, forgiveness is not about condoning wrongdoings or forgetting the hurt caused. It is not for the person who wronged us, but for ourselves. Holding on to anger, resentment, and grudges only weighs us down. It clouds our minds and hearts, preventing us from experiencing peace. Forgiveness, then, becomes an act of self-liberation. When we forgive, we release ourselves from the chains of bitterness. It doesn't mean we let the person who hurt us off the hook, nor does it mean we forget the pain. But when we forgive, we free ourselves from carrying the burden of resentment. We allow ourselves to heal, to move forward, and to find peace. It may take time, and it may not always be easy. But in the practice of forgiveness, we discover a kind of freedom that cannot be found elsewhere. And through this freedom, we cultivate compassion not only for others but also for ourselves. The journey of listening and forgiving is not linear. It is a practice, one that requires patience and persistence. There may be times when we feel triggered, when we want to react out of anger or frustration. But in these moments, the practice of listening and forgiving allows us to pause. It gives us the space to breathe and reflect before we speak or act. It gives us the strength to respond with understanding instead of reacting out of emotion. This is where compassion truly takes root. It's in the moments when we don't react impulsively but instead take the time to listen deeply, to understand the pain of others, and to forgive, not because we are forced to, but because we choose to release the weight of past hurts. The act of forgiveness, whether it's forgiving others or ourselves, is one of the most healing things we can do. It is an act of compassion that transforms both the giver and the receiver. In our relationships, whether they are with family, friends, or even strangers, the ability to listen with an open heart and to forgive without hesitation creates the foundation for deeper connection and understanding. It strengthens the bonds of trust, making our relationships more resilient in the face of conflict. It teaches us that we are all human, that we all make mistakes, and that compassion is not about perfection, but about acceptance and love, despite our flaws. Let's not forget that listening and forgiveness are acts of self-compassion as well. When we listen to ourselves, when we give ourselves the space to feel our own emotions without judgment, we begin to heal. When we forgive ourselves for the mistakes we've made, for the times we've fallen short, we allow ourselves to grow and move forward with a lighter heart. Self-compassion is not about letting ourselves off the hook, but about acknowledging that we are human, and it is okay to make mistakes. It is through this compassionate understanding of ourselves that we can extend the same kindness to others. So, next time someone comes to you with their burdens, remember that the greatest gift you can offer them is your full attention. Listen with your heart, without rushing to offer solutions or advice. And when someone hurts you, take a moment to pause and reflect before you respond. Ask yourself, what would forgiveness look like in this moment? What would it feel like to release the anger and hurt, not for their sake, but for your own peace of mind? This practice is not easy, and it won't happen overnight. But with time, listening and forgiveness will become more natural, more fluid, and your life will be transformed. You will find more peace within yourself, and more peace in your relationships. You will discover the true power of compassion, the power to heal, to connect, and to live more fully in the present moment. Compassion is not just something we do for others, it is something we practice with ourselves, and it is something that can change the world around us. So, take a deep breath, let go of any resentment you may be holding, and begin to listen, truly listen. And in doing so, you will discover that the art of listening and forgiving is, in itself, the greatest act of compassion you can offer. Compassionate relationships. In the heart of every relationship lies a choice. It's the choice to show kindness, understanding, and patience, even when it's difficult. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to forget that relationships, whether with a partner, a family member, or a friend, require nurturing. They thrive on compassion, and when that compassion is absent, they wither. So, how do we keep the flame of compassion alive in our relationships? How do we bring kindness and understanding into our interactions, even when conflicts arise? Imagine the times when you felt misunderstood, or perhaps even hurt by someone you care about. In those moments, it's easy to respond with frustration, anger, or even withdrawal. It feels like the natural thing to do. But what if, in those moments, we chose to respond with compassion instead? What if we looked beyond the words spoken or the actions taken and saw the person in front of us not as an enemy, but as someone who is also struggling, someone who is doing the best they can in that moment? Compassion, at its core, is about seeing others clearly, not as perfect beings, but as fellow human beings who share the same hopes, fears, and insecurities. In a relationship, when we choose to see things from the other person's perspective, we open the door to understanding. Understanding does not mean we always agree, but it means we create space for dialogue, for connection, and for healing. Compassion teaches us that relationships are not about being right or wrong. They are about being present with each other, listening with an open heart, and giving the benefit of the doubt. It's about making the choice to act with love, even when the situation seems difficult or challenging. When we approach relationships with compassion, we begin to notice the small things. We notice when the other person needs support, when they're struggling, when they're in need of a kind word or a gentle touch. And we respond. Compassion in relationships isn't about grand gestures, it's in the small moments. It's in the quiet listening when your partner is upset. It's in the gentle words that offer comfort when a friend is feeling down. It's in the patience you show when a family member makes a mistake. These small acts, over time, build trust and deepen the connection between you and the people you care about. The challenge, of course, is that relationships aren't always easy. We all have our moments of frustration, our misunderstandings, and our feelings of hurt. Compassion doesn't mean that we ignore these feelings. Instead, it teaches us how to respond to them with grace. When we are hurt, compassion allows us to express our feelings without blame or judgment. It gives us the courage to speak honestly, to share our truth, and to listen with an open heart. When we're angry, compassion helps us to pause, to breathe, and to choose a response that nurtures the relationship rather than harms it. In Buddhism, the practice of metta, or loving kindness, is central to fostering compassionate relationships. Metta isn't just about showing kindness to others, it's also about cultivating kindness within ourselves. When we practice metta, we begin to see the beauty in others, even when they may not see it in themselves. We offer them our patience, our forgiveness, and our love, knowing that we are all on this journey together. This doesn't mean we let others walk all over us or allow ourselves to be mistreated. Rather, it means we choose to respond with love and respect, no matter what. Compassion in relationships also means letting go of expectations. So often, we enter relationships with certain ideas of what we want from the other person. We want them to behave a certain way, to act in a way that meets our needs. But compassion teaches us to let go of these expectations. It reminds us that each person is on their own path, with their own struggles and challenges. When we release our expectations and instead choose to meet the other person where they are, we allow space for growth, for change, and for healing. Compassion allows us to be patient with the imperfections of others, and with our own imperfections. One of the most profound aspects of compassion in relationships is forgiveness. It's easy to hold on to grudges, to keep a record of wrongs, to hold someone's past mistakes over their head. But in doing so, we only poison the relationship. Forgiveness is not about excusing the hurt or forgetting what happened. It's about choosing to let go of the pain and the resentment, so that the relationship can heal. Compassion teaches us that forgiveness is a gift, not only to the other person but also to ourselves. It frees us from the chains of bitterness and allows us to move forward with an open heart. Compassion in relationships also means accepting each other as we are, without judgment. We all have our flaws, our shortcomings, and our weaknesses. But when we approach our relationships with compassion, we don't focus on these flaws. Instead, we see the person as a whole, someone worthy of love and respect, just as they are. We recognize that they, like us, are doing the best they can with the tools they have. Compassion allows us to love others not despite their imperfections but because of them. In relationships, it's easy to fall into the trap of me versus you. When conflicts arise, we can feel like we are on opposite sides, fighting for our own version of the truth. But compassion teaches us that we are on the same side. We are not enemies, but partners in this journey of life. When we approach our relationships with compassion, we recognize that we both have a stake in the well-being of the relationship. We both want peace, love, and connection. Compassion helps us to work together to find common ground, to find solutions, and to move forward in a way that honors both people. As we practice compassion in our relationships, we also begin to cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude. We become more aware of the small acts of love and care that we often take for granted. We start to appreciate the person in front of us, not for what they do for us, but for who they are. Compassion allows us to see the beauty in others, even in the midst of conflict. It teaches us to value the relationship, not as something we possess, but as something we share. Ultimately, compassion in relationships is about creating a safe space for both people to grow. It's about showing up for each other, even when it's hard. It's about being vulnerable, about offering our hearts without fear of rejection. Compassion teaches us that love is not about perfection, but about connection. It's about being willing to meet the other person where they are, with an open heart and a compassionate mind. In doing so, we create relationships that are not only strong but deeply fulfilling. As we learn to practice compassion in our relationships, we also become more compassionate with ourselves. We learn to forgive ourselves for our mistakes, to accept ourselves with all our imperfections, and to love ourselves deeply. And when we can do that, we are better able to offer the same love and acceptance to others. Compassion is not just something we give to others, it's something we nurture within ourselves, and it is this inner compassion that forms the foundation of all our relationships. When we approach relationships with compassion, we invite peace, understanding, and love to enter our lives. We create a world where healing, forgiveness, and connection are possible. And in doing so, we create a more compassionate world for all. Beyond the self, compassion for the world. Imagine a stone thrown into a pond. At first, there's just the single point of impact, but soon ripples spread outward, touching every part of the water. Compassion, much like that stone, can start from within us and then expand outward to affect the world around us. But how often do we think about compassion on a global scale? We know how it affects our close relationships, but what about the larger world? What if compassion didn't stop with us or those closest to us, but reached out far beyond, touching even those we may never meet? Think about the people you interact with every day, your family, friends, coworkers, or even strangers in the supermarket. Compassion in these small moments makes life a little softer, doesn't it? It makes the world feel a little bit lighter. But the truth is, the power of compassion doesn't have to be limited to the people we already know. Compassion is not just for the ones we love, it's for the world, for everyone we meet and everyone we don't. When you look around the world, you see so much suffering. There are wars, poverty, injustice, and countless lives in pain. And while it may seem like these issues are too big for one person to make a difference, let me tell you something. The world changes one act of kindness at a time. Every act of compassion, no matter how small, contributes to the greater good. It may not end global suffering overnight, but it sparks something. Like the first ripple in the pond, it has the potential to spread far beyond what we can see. The teachings of Buddhism remind us that we are all interconnected. There is no true separation between us and the world around us. When we hurt, the world hurts. When we heal, the world heals. Every time we act with compassion, we not only help others, but we also help ourselves. The truth is, the more we care for others, the more we nurture our own sense of well-being and peace. Compassion becomes a powerful force that transcends our personal lives, reaching out to touch the lives of people across the globe. And it starts with us. It starts with how we choose to engage with the world each day. This interconnectedness means that our actions, no matter how small, can have a profound impact. Think about the small acts of kindness you may have experienced in your own life. A simple smile from a stranger, a kind word when you're feeling down, or someone helping you without expecting anything in return. These moments often stay with us, don't they? They change our outlook on the world and remind us that kindness still exists. Imagine if everyone, everywhere, acted with compassion toward each other. What would the world look like? Wouldn't it be a place of understanding, cooperation, and peace? But it's not just about personal interactions. Compassion can extend beyond human beings, too. What about the animals, the environment, and the natural world? Buddhism teaches that all living things, whether they're humans, animals, or even plants, deserve compassion. When we practice compassion, we extend our care to all beings, recognizing that they, too, have their own lives, struggles, and joys. Imagine if every decision we made took into account the well-being of the planet and all its inhabitants. What if we chose to live in harmony with nature, protecting it from harm, showing kindness to all creatures, and being mindful of the impact we have on the world around us? This is the true power of compassion. It extends beyond just humans and into the world we share with all living things. In a world that can often feel cold and indifferent, compassion is a reminder that we are not alone. It is a light in the darkness, a reminder that no matter how divided we may seem, we are all connected. Each time we show compassion, we send a message that says, I see you, I care for you, and your suffering matters to me. It's a message that transcends borders, races, and religions. Compassion knows no boundaries. It is universal. It is what makes us human. But let's be clear, practicing compassion on a global scale doesn't mean we have to take on the world's problems alone. It's about making the choice to care, to be aware, and to take action when and where we can. It's about starting small, with a kind word, a helping hand, or a thoughtful gesture. From there, the impact grows. And slowly, the world becomes a better place because of it. As we look at the state of the world today, it can feel overwhelming. There are so many problems, so many injustices, so much pain. It's easy to feel helpless, to believe that one person's compassion won't make a difference. But that's not the truth. The truth is that every act of kindness, every compassionate thought, every effort to ease someone else's burden matters. It all matters. Each time you choose compassion, you contribute to the healing of the world. When we show compassion to others, we not only make their lives better, but we also make our own lives better. Compassion helps to open our hearts, soften our minds, and bring peace to our spirits. The more we practice compassion, the more we realize that it is not just something we give, but something we receive. It enriches our lives in ways we can't always measure, but we can certainly feel. So, as you go through your day, remember that every moment is an opportunity to practice compassion. It's not about grand gestures, it's about the little things. A smile to a stranger, a helping hand to someone in need, listening with an open heart, or simply offering understanding instead of judgment. These acts create a ripple effect. You may not see the change immediately, but know that it is happening. Compassion spreads, just like the ripples in the pond, reaching farther than you can imagine. When you extend compassion to others, you create a world of peace, understanding, and love. The world begins to shift, one small act at a time. And the best part? That shift starts with you. It starts with how you choose to act in every moment, in every interaction. Compassion for the world is not something that happens overnight, but it is something that can begin today. By choosing to act with kindness, empathy, and love, you are playing your part in creating a better, more compassionate world for all. Now, imagine if everyone embraced this mindset. What if we all recognized our interconnectedness, realized that our actions affect the world, and chose compassion in every moment? The world would be a different place. In that change, it starts with you. Sustaining compassion without burning out. In life, when we start to practice compassion, we often feel a surge of positive energy. It feels good to help others, to be there for someone, to share kindness. Compassion becomes a bright light within us, shining through our actions, our words, and our thoughts. But, as with all things, there's a balance. If we're not careful, the light of compassion can start to dim, and we can feel tired, drained, and overwhelmed. This is what we call compassion fatigue. It's the feeling of being so deeply connected to the struggles of others that we forget to care for ourselves. Imagine you are someone who always puts others first. You listen to their problems, offer help, and give your time and energy. At first, it feels rewarding. You see the difference you're making, and it fills your heart with joy. But slowly, you begin to notice that your own well-being is suffering. You're giving so much that you have little left for yourself. You start feeling exhausted, stressed, and perhaps even resentful. You might even begin to question, why am I always the one giving? When will someone care for me in the same way? This is where the teachings of Buddhism can guide us. Compassion is not about endless giving without taking care of ourselves. True compassion begins with a balance, taking care of our own mind, body, and spirit, so we can continue to care for others. Without this balance, we risk burning out, losing touch with the joy of compassion, and even becoming overwhelmed by the suffering we see around us. The Buddha taught that suffering is an inevitable part of life, but he also shared how to deal with it. One of the key teachings is the importance of self-care. Compassion is a powerful tool for healing, but to use it effectively, we must make sure our own well-being is nurtured first. If we are constantly giving without replenishing our energy, we are like a cup that is always being emptied but never filled. In Buddhist practice, we learn the importance of mindfulness, the ability to be present with our own thoughts, feelings, and needs. This awareness allows us to recognize when we are feeling drained and when we need to take a step back. It's not selfish to take time for yourself. It's necessary. Compassion is a river that must flow, but if the river dries up, there will be no water left to give. We must continuously refill our own cup to continue sharing with others. But how do we prevent compassion from turning into fatigue? First, we need to practice what is called metta, loving kindness, which not only extends to others but also to ourselves. It's easy to think that caring for others is the highest form of compassion, but without kindness toward ourselves, our compassion loses its depth. The Buddha encouraged us to offer the same loving kindness to ourselves that we would offer to a dear friend. In doing so, we learn to care for our own hearts, minds, and bodies, and from that place of inner peace, we can offer even more to others. Another key practice in sustaining compassion is setting healthy boundaries. We are all human, and there are limits to what we can give. Sometimes, in our desire to help, we forget that we need time to rest and recharge. Setting boundaries doesn't mean we stop being compassionate. It means we are compassionate enough to recognize when we need to step back and give ourselves the space to heal. It's about understanding that we can't pour from an empty cup, and by respecting our limits, we can continue to be a source of light for others. This practice is not always easy. There may be times when we feel guilty for taking time for ourselves or saying no to someone in need. We may think, how can I help others if I'm not always available? But the truth is, by respecting our own needs, we actually become better equipped to help others. We are not limitless beings. We are human. And by honoring our humanity, we can continue to practice compassion in a sustainable way. Compassion is not a finite resource. It's not something that will run out if we give it freely. But like all things in life, it needs care, attention, and nourishment. When we are mindful of our own well-being, we can continue to extend compassion to others without feeling drained or overwhelmed. The more we practice self-compassion, the more we build a foundation that supports our ability to be there for others. Another important practice is reflection. Taking time each day to reflect on our actions, our thoughts, and our feelings allows us to check in with ourselves. Are we giving too much? Are we feeling overwhelmed? Are we caring for ourselves as much as we care for others? Reflection helps us to stay in touch with our own needs, so we can continue to serve others with a compassionate heart. The Buddha also taught the importance of impermanence. Everything in life changes, including our energy and capacity to give. There will be days when we feel full of energy and compassion, and there will be days when we feel empty. Understanding the impermanent nature of our emotions allows us to accept that it's okay to rest when needed. Compassion doesn't have to be constant. It's okay to take breaks, to pause, to reflect. By doing so, we come back stronger, more present, and more capable of extending love and kindness to others. It's also helpful to practice gratitude. When we take time each day to be thankful for the small moments of kindness, the beautiful connections, and the moments of peace, we replenish our hearts. Gratitude helps us shift our focus away from the negative and reminds us of the good in our lives. It brings a sense of balance, reminding us that while the world may be full of challenges, it's also full of moments worth appreciating. Gratitude feeds the compassion within us and helps it grow. Lastly, compassion is a journey, not a destination. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that we must always be doing compassion, that we must always be helping and giving. But true compassion is not about effort or achievement. It's about presence, understanding, and connection. It's about being with others in their pain, without losing ourselves in it. It's about being gentle with ourselves, as we are with others. In the end, the practice of compassion is about finding balance, knowing when to give and when to take a step back, knowing when to listen and when to speak, knowing when to help and when to rest. By finding this balance, we can continue to be a source of love, kindness, and healing for the world around us, without losing ourselves in the process. Remember, compassion is a gift that must be nurtured, not only for others but for ourselves. When we honor our own needs, we can give more freely, more fully, and more sustainably. By practicing compassion with wisdom and balance, we can continue to spread light in the world, without burning out. This is the path of compassion, a path that brings both joy and peace, both to ourselves and to others. It is a journey that requires care, attention, and the courage to honor our own humanity. Through this practice, we can walk in the world with open hearts, always ready to offer kindness, understanding, and love, becoming a beacon of compassion. Imagine for a moment that the world you live in could be a little kinder, a little softer, a little more peaceful. Think about your family, your friends, your community, and even those you may not know personally. What if everyone in your life, and in the world around you, responded with compassion in every situation? What if we all paused just a moment before reacting, not to judge, not to react with anger or frustration, but to pause and respond with kindness, understanding, and love? What would the world look like then? You might think, well, that's impossible. People are too busy, too caught up in their own lives, and too distant from each other. And you would be right in one way. Our world can feel disconnected. But here's the thing, we are not helpless in this. We have the ability to change, to create small ripples of kindness that can eventually lead to a wave of compassion sweeping through the world. It starts with you and me, and with every little choice we make in our daily lives. Throughout this series, we've explored how compassion, in its purest form, is not just an emotion. It is an action, a mindset, and a way of being in the world. It is the willingness to look beyond ourselves and see the suffering of others. It's about choosing, again and again, to act in ways that bring comfort, healing, and peace to the people around us. Now, think about your own life. Can you remember a moment when someone showed you kindness? Maybe it was a simple smile when you were feeling down, a listening ear when you were troubled, or a helping hand when you were overwhelmed. How did that make you feel? Did it not remind you that kindness can be a bridge to peace, and that when we share compassion, we make life just a little bit easier for one another. The same way compassion can uplift us, it can also uplift others. The small things we do every day, those acts that seem insignificant to us, are often the ones that leave the biggest impact. We might not always see the results right away, but trust that every act of kindness, no matter how small, plants a seed. And those seeds, when nurtured, grow into a world of greater understanding and love. Think of the times when you felt hurt or misunderstood. In those moments, what would have healed the pain? Was it more anger, more distance, or was it someone reaching out to you with a heart full of compassion? Compassion can soften the hardest of hearts and heal the deepest of wounds. It can create a space where understanding and connection can flourish, even when it seems like nothing else will. But here's the truth. It's easy to feel compassionate when things are going well. It's much harder when we face challenges. When we feel stressed, tired, or hurt, compassion is often the last thing on our minds. But this is when it matters most. In those moments, we have the chance to transform ourselves and our situation by choosing compassion over frustration, understanding over judgment, and kindness over anger. It's not always easy, and it's certainly not always quick, but it is always worth it. Now, let's think about how you can be a beacon of compassion in your own life. It doesn't require grand gestures or dramatic acts. Compassion doesn't need to be loud or public. It can be quiet, subtle, and still powerful. It's the gentle act of listening to someone who needs to be heard. It's the patience you show when someone is struggling. It's the forgiveness you offer when someone has wronged you. These acts of compassion, when done consistently, will light the path for others to follow. In Buddhism, we are taught that compassion is not just for others, it's also for ourselves. When we show kindness to ourselves, we have more to give to the world. And yet, too often, we are our own harshest critics, too quick to judge ourselves when we make mistakes. But what if we could show ourselves the same compassion we show others? What if we could embrace our own imperfections with kindness and acceptance? When we do this, we become more whole, more peaceful, and more able to share that peace with the world. Becoming a beacon of compassion doesn't mean you'll never feel anger or frustration. It doesn't mean that you will always have the perfect response to every situation. What it means is that, over time, your heart becomes more attuned to the needs of others, and your actions more reflective of love and understanding. It means that when life presents its challenges, and it will, as it always does, you respond not from a place of fear or defensiveness, but from a place of compassion, knowing that in every difficult moment, there is an opportunity for healing, for growth, and for connection. Let's take a moment to reflect on how we can be more compassionate right now. Maybe there's someone in your life who could use a word of encouragement. Maybe there's a situation that you're holding on to, full of anger or resentment. What would it look like to let that go, to choose compassion instead? How can you show more kindness to yourself, even on the days when it feels hardest? As you go forward, remember that the power of compassion is not just in the big, grand moments. It's in the quiet, everyday choices we make. It's in the way we treat the person who serves us coffee, the way we listen to a friend in need, and the way we respond to our own struggles. Compassion is not just something we do. It's something we become. So, here's my invitation to you. Let compassion be your guide. Let it be the lens through which you view the world and the force that drives your actions. Let it be the light that shines from within, showing others the way to peace, understanding, and love. Because when we choose compassion, we choose a life filled with meaning, connection, and profound transformation. Before we finish, I want to thank you for being part of this journey. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% subscribe. So, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us grow, and we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Together, we can make a difference, one compassionate act at a time. Thank you for sharing this path of compassion with me. Now, let us continue to walk this journey together, bringing kindness to every corner of our lives.